ketch Gipsy Moth IV glides quietly upriver to Greenwich, where her master, the 65-year-old Sir Francis Chichester, is to receive from Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth the accolade of knighthood. For the first time in history, the Queen commanded that the knighthood should be conferred in public using a sword originally owned by Sir Francis Drake 400 years ago. A gesture fit for a man honoured not only by his Queen, but by all men with adventure in their hearts. Lady Chichester and son Giles are presented to the Queen, and the ceremony begins. Sir Francis is dubbed Knight Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire. Whilst the royal party visit Gipsy Moth, let us consider what led to today's events. How does a frail, elderly man of quiet and modest disposition become honoured as an international hero? He set sail from Plymouth on August the 27th in Gipsy Moth IV on the first leg of his voyage in an attempt to circumnavigate the globe in less than the 200 days taken by the clipper ships of old. His first port of call, Sydney, Australia. He would almost certainly have completed the first leg in 100 days, but on November the 15th, near disaster struck. With 11,000 miles behind him and 3,000 to go, his self-steering gear was smashed by the force of wind and heavy seas. His morale low, he changed course for Fremantle, but to use his own words, the more I thought about it, the more it stuck in my gullet. So after rigging a makeshift sail and steering device, he once again headed for Sydney, where after 107 days at sea, he arrived to a tumultuous reception. One Sydney newspaper, on hearing the announcement that he was to be knighted, prematurely referred to him as Sir Francis of Cape Horn. Reunited with his wife and family, he was to spend 7 weeks in all overhauling and repairing his craft for the even more arduous task ahead. Soon he announced that the modifications were complete and so prepared to leave. He was escorted out of Sydney Harbour by a flotilla of small craft, and at the harbour mouth, he bade farewell to his wife. His aim now was to reach Cape Horn in 60 days, where he would face one of the world's most dreaded stretches of water. These 10,000-ton cruisers with powerful engines were rounding the Horn in a gale when these pictures were taken. Imagine the effect on a tiny ketch and its one-man crew. Some might call it madness to try, but to Chichester, this is living. He is a man with confidence in his own ability and faith in himself and his craft. Only 3 men have sailed single-handed round the Horn and survived its fearsome winds and mountainous seas. Already, with Sydney not far astern, the sea begins to show its power. This power was to almost capsize Gipsy Moth only 2 days out from Sydney. An aerial search was in progress, and HMS Protector stood by in an attempt to sight Gipsy Moth as she rounded the Horn. On March the 20th, she was sighted on Protector's radar screen. And soon the lookout spotted her, sailing under a storm jib the size of a bath towel, lashed by salt spray and at times lost from sight behind gigantic waves. Sir Francis navigated his craft through these raging seas almost miraculously. Protector established radio contact with Gipsy Moth, and after shadowing her to the comparative safety of the Atlantic, continued on her way. The eagerly awaited news was flashed round the world, but for the lone navigator, still 7,000 miles from home, there was no respite. He set course for Plymouth, where preparations were being made to give this man a welcome fit for a hero. Not since the first Sir Francis scattered the Armada has Plymouth known such a celebration. The odyssey of this lone sailor caught the imagination of the whole world. And as people flock in to share the excitement of his homecoming, son Giles flies out in a light aircraft to greet his father. And there below, in the calmer waters off Plymouth, Gipsy Moth heads quietly for journey's end. Meanwhile, the crowds in Plymouth wait patiently for their hero to come into view. Beacons blaze, as in the days of the Armada, against a darkening sky, signalling to the crowds that Gipsy Moth is nearly home. Lady Chichester sets out from Plymouth in a launch loaned by Lord Montague of Bewley to join her husband after a separation of 119 days. This courageous human achievement would have been outstanding for any man. But for a man in his mid-60s, who qualified for his old age pension during the voyage, a man with failing eyesight who conquered lung cancer 7 years ago, it is almost unbelievable. What drives a man to undertake such a challenge? The purpose of it all, says Sir Francis. It intensifies life. It's living life to the full. And because of that, it's worthwhile.